Hello everyone, welcome to the weekly Purple Penny coin video. My name's Mark. I own and run the Purple Penny along with my wife Catherine. We've been doing these videos for 2.5 years, probably a bit more than that actually, and the shop's been here for a bit over 4 years. The Purple Penny is a small coin and banknote shop in the northern suburbs of Adelaide, Adelaide being the capital of South Australia. South Australia being the state in the middle at the bottom of the map of Australia if you're not from Australia. Welcome everyone today. Cold weather here in Adelaide, lots of rain. We had a daily record in our rain gauge at home last week, 49 millimetres, which is quite a bit for one day around in our part of the world. So 2 bits of non-coin related news. You may have seen Pesto on the video a couple of weeks ago. He's a trainee assistant's dog. Unfortunately, Pesto left us today, so Catherine and I are a little bit flat about that because we did like Pesto a lot, and he will be missed. But he's going on to bigger and better things, and there will be a new dog in the shop on Saturdays in a few weeks' time, no doubt. We don't know what it is or what its name is or anything, but a new one will be coming. Other bit of non-coin related news is that last Friday I completed the 2023 push-up challenge. Thank you to everyone who donated. We ended up getting $650 worth of donations, and I completed 3,144 push-ups in 23 days. So thank you everyone who kindly donated. Thanks in particular to Stace, who donated a couple of times. Stace is one of our regular customers here in the shop, so thank you to him for donating a couple of times. Now on to coin related news. It's been quite slow here in the shop in terms of sales. We really are feeling the pinch, I think, that everyone is in terms of mortgages and all that's cost of living. We're certainly getting a lot less people in here spending their incidental money on for what essentially is a hobby. Online sales are fine, a little bit quieter in the shop, which is actually a good thing for us because it means that we're getting on with organisation and things like that, so not a bad thing for us. Now, you may or may not have seen the release from the Mint on their Facebook page last week. They very kindly explained why our allocations for this Thursday's release were much higher than what we're expecting. It's because they have thrown their hands up in the air and decided not to sell any of Thursday's releases through their website and pushed it all out to the dealer network. Now that's good because we did get more material than what we're expecting, but if they'd told us beforehand, we would have asked for even more. And it's not we don't make a lot of money out of selling Mint stuff. It's more to just keep people happy. So we have had unprecedented amounts of interest registered with us in the last week or so, and we are certainly going to exhaust our stock of some of the releases by Thursday. There will be stock available for purchase over the counter. We are not going to list anything up on our website. If the Mint can't solve their website problems with millions of dollars, we're certainly not going to be able to solve those problems on our website. So there won't be anything up on our website. We will. We're still thinking about what to do about Thursday, and as we find time, we will pop up something on our Facebook page about that. Thank you for everyone who has registered their interest with us. We're not taking any more registrations now because we're just finalising our numbers on that stuff. So I'll just say a few hellos to people here because there are a bunch of messages here. Hello Peter, Petra, Patrick, Gary, Tanya, Chris. Thanks Chris for your kind words there. Paul, Aaron, yes it is cold, Aaron, Graham, Mike, Ray, Pal, Carolyn, Chris, Jason, John. Thank you everyone for your congratulations on completing the push-up challenge. And if I've missed anyone there, Brett, sorry, Facebook keeps moving things around, Ivan, Alan, there's a few other names there I can see that I've missed. Thank you everyone for joining in and saying hello, it is much appreciated. Right, back to the news. The Adelaide Coin Expo is definitely happening. We've just ordered some advertising for the expo, so it's definitely going ahead. I think we're looking at 26 or 27 dealers at the expo. The number of tables per dealer has been cut down to allow for more dealers to fit into the hall. So there was 21 dealers there last year, 26 dealers this year, and we are hoping for a big bit of news in the next couple of weeks, and you as video watchers will probably be the first people to know, because I'm doing all the online promotion for the expo, so you will be the first ones to know about that bit of news. Independent Coin News, which is a great online and free coin newsletter, which has had one edition so far. It is written and edited by Peter Andrews, who I believe is watching today. Second issue is due out in the next few days. It's issued bi-monthly. Do just jump on to the Facebook and do a search for Independent Coin News. There's a group there that you can join up to, and there's a link in that group to the website where you can download the newsletter, so please do join up to that. It is excellent. It is an excellent newsletter, much better than, much more comprehensive than what I was expecting, to be honest. Patrick says, will there be FPOS at the expo or cash only? You need to ask each and every dealer what they're doing, Patrick. Dealers are responsible for their own payments, and it's not up to the expo. So if you are interested in dealing with a dealer, you should contact them and ask them. Now, coins in the news. There were a number of stories in the news this week, and there was actually so many that I had to not include some, which is always a bit disappointing, but I did find this story particularly interesting. So if you know anything about Jewish and Roman history, you would know that there was a Jewish revolt against the Romans in about AD 66 to about AD 72, and that revolt ended with the suicide of all of the remaining Jewish revolutionaries. And the 10th Legion, which was one of the legions of the Roman Empire that helped quash that rebellion, actually captured Jewish minted coins. A lot of those coins were minted as part of the revolution against the Romans. And some of those coins have been dug up at an old Roman military camp in what is now Western Georgia, Georgia being one of the former Soviet Socialist republics. Interestingly, there was almost a 50-year gap between the 10th Legion capturing those coins in what is now Israel and then taking them to what is now Western Georgia. So those soldiers had circulated those coins for 50 years and were still using them 50 years later before they were lost in a military camp in Western Georgia. And if you're just wondering why they were in Western Georgia, it's because Emperor Trajan was invading the Parthian Empire, which was an empire that can now be found in modern-day Iran. And I think this news story is interesting not just because it involves coins, but it does give you an idea of how long coins were used for. 50 years later, these were still circulating, and the fact that people viewed all coins pretty much as having some value and would trade them between themselves and then carry them around. So, 50 years later, you would be talking about potentially the grandchildren of the original soldiers who had captured those coins. So, it's quite remarkable bit of history there. Jason says Masada. Yes, I believe Masada was part of that Jewish revolt. Masada was a mountaintop fortress in what is now Israel, where that revolution came to its bloody end. So just jump back into the news here. So if you watch these videos, you would have seen me talk several times this year about a coin, what at the time was the most expensive ancient coin ever sold. I believe it sold for about $6 million that was repatriated back to Greece. So the USA has a treaty with many countries in Europe where they will actually seize and return ancient coins that do not have appropriate ownership paperwork or appropriate provenance to allow them to be owned privately. This week, a group of 51 coins were actually returned in a ceremony to the Greek ambassador, and they will be relocated back to the Hellene Museum in Athens. And these 51 coins came from 4 separate shipments that were seized in the USA, and in all 4 cases, neither the senders nor the receivers could or would provide appropriate ownership or provenance for the coins. So as such, they were seized by the US government and handed back to the Greek government. They have similar treaties with places like Italy and Spain and many other European countries. So it's a fairly vexing topic if you are a ancient coin collector, and I don't really know what the answer is other than buying from a reputable dealer. But that being said, if you were to engage a reputable dealer such as the gentleman I'm going to talk about now, you would find out that he's not very reputable at all. So an elderly Italian coin dealer, Italo Vecchi, who I believe is in his late 70s, has been arrested and charged in New York with possession of $1 million US plus worth of ancient coins found in his possession, and they are believed to have been stolen. So this same gentleman is linked to an English coin dealer who I just mentioned previously sold a ancient coin for over $6 million US, and it was found that all of the provenance of that coin had been fabricated, and in reality it had been looted from an archaeological site in Greece in the early 2000s. This gentleman here, Italo Vecchi, he was involved in that falsification of provenance of that coin. Not the first time this gentleman has done this. He's already been charged with that gold-eyed Ma coin, faking the provenance of that. At the same time, he has been charged with faking the provenance of the coin you can see in the picture there, which is known as the Sicily Naxos coin. In 2013 and 2014, he was also charged with faking the provenances of coins. And in 1992, he was arrested in the USA and found to be trying to smuggle coins into the country. So, one would suggest where there's smoke, there's fire, and perhaps this gentleman is not a trustworthy coin dealer, and maybe you shouldn't be buying coins off of him. Next item in the news is looking at what is a fairly troubled country, Afghanistan. Just about all the trade in Afghanistan is done via cash. Brandon says that coin dealer is no quitter. No, he's certainly persistent. Clearly he's got away with stuff for a long time, Brandon, and is persisting with underhanded activities, I guess. Anyway, back to Afghanistan. Cash is really the only accepted form of payment in Afghanistan, and you would well know that the government there has been in turmoil for a long time, and with the removal of Western military forces a couple of years ago, of course, the Taliban took over the running of the country. Now, because of that, for at least the last 3 years, there has been no issuance of new paper money in Afghanistan, and many shopkeepers in Afghanistan find themselves spending hours a day repairing paper notes at the close of business to make them presentable. And the reason for that is that they're finding that their suppliers are actually refusing to accept notes that are too damaged or too degraded or too worn. People try to pay with notes where all of the ink has rubbed off and you can't even make out the denomination any longer. And the only way that these gentlemen and women can get new notes is via money changers who are hoarding the better condition notes, and then they charge a fee to swap the damaged notes for the better condition notes. And because the government is so beautifully run over there, they have actually organised 100 million new notes to be issued into circulation, but they've somehow managed to lose 80 million of them. So 20 million notes isn't a lot for a country with a population that is about that, and 80% of the notes they've had printed have gone missing. So fairly messed up country, fairly messed up financial system. Interesting that they're still using paper notes and that cash is still the only way to pay for things, and that as always, it's the people at the bottom of the heap that are left holding the baby as such, and businesses are spending a lot of time repairing paper notes just so they can pay their suppliers. Really interesting story. And of course, part of the reason why Australia went to polymer notes in the 1990s was to avoid this sort of problem. Paper notes are only supposed to be used for about 6 months, and given there's been no new issuances in Afghanistan for 3 years, the notes are well and truly worn out. Right, I believe that is it for the news today. So I just wanted to share with you that we had a PCGS submission come back last week of notes. So we've got several dozen PCGS graded notes back, decimals and pre-decimals mainly. There are a couple of world notes which are of sort of minor interest if you're into historical things. These are notes issued in 1923 by Danzig. Danzig being a city in what is now Poland, but has been a political football in Europe for many years and was part of Germany and then became part of Poland and then became part of Germany again and now I believe is part of Poland again. So they issued their own notes, so a couple of very high denomination Danzig notes there. And if you're after sort of some mid-grade pre-decimals, if you're perhaps looking to put together a typeset, there will be some inexpensive pre-decimal notes popping up on our website during the week. And some nice first and last prefixes. We did rifle through all of our notes before we did the submission and found a good group of first and last prefixes, including first and last prefix Coombs and Randall 5s, which are a little bit harder to find. NAA and NCC, Coombs and Randall 5s were the first $5 notes issued. They didn't issue them in 1966. And Coombs and Randall, Coombs being, hang on a second, let me get this right. Coombs being the governor of the Reserve Bank and Randall being the secretary to the treasurer. They only worked together for a few months, and most Coombs and Randall paper notes are quite, well, I won't say they're scarce, but they tend to be the hardest ones to find, and as such do hold a bit of a better value. And as always, first and last prefix notes are the ones that people chase after. If you're not sure what first and last prefix means, it means that when they print out notes, so when the government requires printing of notes, they print them with the signatures of the governor of the Reserve Bank and the secretary of the treasurer on them. The first 3-letter prefixes that they use for those pair of signatories is called the first prefix. Of course, when those two people's positions change and they print out another sets of notes, those last prefixes used are also sought after. So I don't mind I'm not a note collector myself, but I understand the appeal to it, and putting together a first and last prefix set is extremely challenging. If you're just after examples of paper decimal notes, they are very common. If you are after a set of paper decimal notes, just send me a message. It's quite easy to find them. I don't think I have anything else to share with you this week. I didn't bring anything in. So topic of the week is how to set yourself a collecting theme, and I thought I would share this as part of my own collecting journey. I've been collecting coins for a long while. I do still collect coins. I think it's difficult to be a coin and banknote dealer if you don't collect something, because the collecting interest is really what keeps you enthused in this job, because most of it is quite mundane. You'd be surprised at how mundane most of what Catherine and I do in here. It is mostly just sorting and packaging and pricing and just retail stuff. But as collectors, we find enough interesting things here day to day to keep us enthused and interested about what we do. So that brings you to the first point there. If you are selecting a collecting theme, collect what interests you. So sit and think about what it is that you are interested in outside of coins and how that could fit in with collecting coins. So for example, historical events, famous people, a specific country, maybe a specific year, maybe a specific theme, whatever that happens to be. So amongst male collectors, collecting military themed coins is fairly common. Sport related coins, cricket, aviation, trains, famous personalities or US presidents and things like that. So if there is something that you are interested in, then do think about how that could be tied in with the coins that you collect. Why is it important to do that? It's because generally if you collect things that interest you, then you are likely to stick at that in the longer term. If you dive into the hobby with a huge flash of inspiration, because you think you're going to make money out of it or whatever it happens to be, then, in the majority of cases, that enthusiasm wanes fairly quickly, and often those people are lost to the hobby. So when I got started, it was because of the birth of our first son, and I bought him a baby set, and it just sort of all took off from there. So I bought a group of stuff that was all from the year of his birth, and then I got interested in errors, pre-decimal coins, and I think it really just morphed into World War One military related coins after that, coins and badges. So at the moment, really all I collect is World War One related fundraising badges and association badges, and coins that have been made into ID discs from by soldiers, so they'd have their name and their service number on them. And that brings you to the second point here, which is what I find really interesting, is that as soon as you start collecting something or decide on collecting something that interests you, then you have the opportunity there to do some research and educate yourself. Now, what does that mean? It means taking a deep dive into the history of whatever it is that you are collecting, understanding the significance and the background of the items that you are collecting, perhaps buying a book, using online resources, going to museums, joining a club or a coin society or something like that. Now, from my own point of view, as I said, I collect World War One related identity discs, and I bought one a few years ago that belonged to a New South Wales politician who was killed on the first day of the landings at Gallipoli. Fascinating guy, lots of online resources about it, but he was a fairly significant guy, and as such we managed to locate a book that has several chapters specifically about him, his activities prior to the war and his activities during the war. And it was a fascinating read, because this gentleman is not known these days, and we tend to think of our own time as being the most significant time in history, but of course that isn't true. It is significant to us, but there were significant people and significant events before us and after us, and understanding the motivations of the man who created this disc, what his background was, and the life that he lived has turned it from what is a fairly mundane item to something that to me means a lot to me. And when I move it on, I'll move it on with all the information that I've got, so that someone else can enjoy it as much as I can. And I might only buy a few things a year, but the time that I put into each one is really satisfying and keeps me engaged in the hobby. Set yourself limits. What does that mean? It could just be budget. Sorry, my little cards have got out of order here. It could just be budget. It could be restricting yourself to a specific country, to a specific denomination, a specific era, specific design type, or perhaps even a type of metal. So I do see a few people here talking about ancient coins. Ray's talked about ancient coins, I believe. Mike said pre-decimals. Ancients are a great example of setting yourself a limit. You might just choose to restrict yourself to a particular emperor or a particular period of Roman history. You might choose to focus on a particular denomination, or a common reverse type, or coins from a particular area of the Roman Empire. If we relate it back to my own collection with collecting ID discs made out of coins, I try to restrict it to coins that were made by Australian soldiers during World War One that have a service number on them. That's what I try to do. That means that sometimes I pass up things that perhaps are ID discs, but I'm not sure, and I pass up on British ID discs and World War II ID discs and things like that. So I have got a fairly restrictive set of rules to what it is that I do, and it's not budget driven. It's more that I recognise that I don't have the time to research everything to the degree that it deserves. So let's stick with World War One stuff because that's an era of history that really interests me. Next step here is to set yourself some goals. Mike Ellery talked about pre-decimals. What are some goals you could set yourself with pre-decimals? You might just choose to buy the 4 commemorative florins. 1927 Parliament florin, 1934-35 Centennial florin, 1951 Federation florin, and 1954 Royal Visit florin. That is a fine set of coins, and if you were wanting to collect them all in uncirculated condition, you could spend quite a bit of time finding examples that you were interested in or happy to buy, or at the price that you were happy to pay. You might decide to put together a whole shilling set. You might decide to only collect coins that are extremely fine. So if you do hang around coin shops and things like that, you will see words like nicely matched set, and that's where you attempt to put together a set of coins that are perhaps similar in appearance, for example grade. I for a while was putting together a set of QE2 florins that were graded by PCGS, and they were all toned, so I only wanted toned coins, pretty toning obviously. So that was an interesting goal that I set myself, and surprisingly difficult. As soon as you'd set a minimum grade on that, I wanted everything in PCGS MS64 or better. It was very hard. And in the end I ended up getting my own coins graded rather than waiting for them to appear on the market. So set yourself some goals. If we do think about mint product, it might be all of the $2 releases to get all of them. Now that is a challenging goal and one that requires a big budget, so perhaps you might set yourself a goal to get everything minus the planetary set and the silver Vietnam coin or something like that. And that's something that we do see a lot of here in the shop, of people setting themselves goals like that. Engage with others. What does that mean? It means that collecting coins is generally a very solitary thing. I'm lucky that Catherine collects coins as well, and I guess she might not agree with me, but it's lucky that she's married to me and I collect coins as well. It means that we can talk to each other about it and bump ideas off of each other, but often that isn't the case, and I'd suggest that most of the time it isn't the case. So being able to meet and talk to other people, whether it be online or in person, does make the hobby much more interesting, and you certainly will learn a lot off of more experienced collectors. I see a number of people here in the comments that I have learned many things off of, and I am a better coin collector for it. And if you are getting into coin collecting, then think about joining online Facebook groups, online forums, attending coin shows, visiting your local coin shop. Think about joining a coin club or a coin society, and do a bit of networking, a bit of talking, and share your interests and your hobbies. Ask lots of questions, be willing to learn, and it will become a better hobby for you. Well, there's Catherine going, laughing at the fact that she's better off being married to me. Thanks for that, honey. She's out there catching up on the packaging for the weekend. It was a busy weekend for us. Now, the last one here is seeking out variety, and this is something that I really strongly believe in, because it really allows you to have a hobby that is interesting for you in the long term. So I collect, as I said, badges and ID discs that are made out of coins, and badges are a great example of something that has almost infinite amount of variety. I'm always coming across badges that I haven't seen before, and they are really cheap and they're really interesting, and if you keep your eyes open, you might add 1 or 2 or even 3 things a month to your collection for only $15 or $20. Now, on a coin point of view, you might look at say for example, if you're collecting pre-decimals and you started off with the commemoratives, you might decide to collect counterfeits. So looking for a counterfeit of every year. You might look to collect a year full of varieties. So I do know of someone who's putting together a penny set minus the 1930, who's looking for a variety on every year. Now, they aren't necessarily significant varieties, they might just be die cracks, or they might be well-known varieties such as double dates or things like that. So he's trying to put together a complete collection of pennies that have some sort of variety on each coin. You might choose different mint marks. Why would that be interesting? I mean, if you have a big budget, you might choose all of the 1901 florins that were issued, not florins, sovereigns that were issued from the various mints in Australia and in the UK. You might choose to put together a mint mark set of dollars from each year or something like that. So, you know, there's all sorts of varieties and things that can keep you interested. Because maintaining that interest is important, I think, in the longer term. Right, that was it. That was the topic for today. How to build a collection theme that is likely to keep you interested. And as I always say, don't collect trying to make money out of it, because you probably won't. Collect something that interests you, and you'll become a long-term collector, and you will then come to recognise bargains when you see them in your particular collecting area, because it is actually not that hard to become an expert in a small field and know more than what I do or what Catherine does, and you could walk into the shop and find a bargain because you know more about that particular area than what we do. So yeah, it's I really enjoy my collecting, and I still get a thrill when I buy something that I haven't seen before. And I took Jared is our part-time employee. I took him to a collectible show here in Adelaide a couple of weeks ago because he'd never been to one, and I spent $40 on things for myself, and I couldn't have been any happier because they were all things that I hadn't seen before and that would sit nicely in my collection. So you know, it is a great hobby, and it is a way of keeping your mind active and really learning things about the world and history. That's it for today. Thank you, everyone. Of course, we've got the release this Thursday. If you have registered your interest with us, please make sure that you add sales at the Purple Penny and Mark at the Purple Penny to your whitelist in your email, so that our emails don't go into your spam folder. We didn't get enough stock to keep everyone happy, so we're not going to be able to meet everyone's demands, but do keep an eye on your email, and do follow our Facebook page, because if we do have excess stock, we'll work out a way of making it available through there. That's it for this week. As always, if you've got anything you'd like me to talk about, please send us a message, give us a phone call, send us an email, whatever way you like, and I'll do my best to fit it into one of these videos. Thanks everyone for watching. Happy collecting, and bye for now.